trying to think about the root of the disagreements.
How do we change the dynamics in DC?
The institutions in which we're interacting with are not set up in such a way that allow new ideas to emerge.
The more you narrow and pigeonhole, the more you can engage in adversarial mentality.
I don't mean to offend you, but I know that I am, because once it comes out, then you say something in the media instead of like talking to me.
We're just really happy to engage a number of folks here that are probably very close to the target audience of the types of people that could be earliest adopters of this as we seek to shift the political culture from win-lose to win-win.
Thank you for having me. Thank you, Joseph, and the Transpartisan Alliance for inviting me. This is a very different environment for me. I'm excited about it and looking forward to the rest of the discussion. I work at a group called Freedomworks. We're a grassroots organization. We aspire to be the MoveOn on the right. But I've never been on a panel where we started like this. Usually in Washington, it's set up as two people on the left, two people on the right, a moderator, name, title, argue. And there's no interest in who you are as a person.
Elections are by their nature adversarial, and it was at that point that MoveOn went from being, a voice of unification as a voice that turned into a progressive voice, which has been something that I have valued very deeply and highly. And then, to take the story further, is I started the organization Mobs Rising in 2006 because I still feel there's a deep need to find places of common ground because we have so much more in common than we have that separates us. But you wouldn't know it by listening to our leadership and listening to the media.
This is a constant struggle whenever we're dealing with the people on Capitol Hill, whether it's the politicians themselves or their staffers. They're interested in how can we twist this news event or this issue to the benefit of our party. And they do it on both sides, rather than how can we find a solution that's going to solve this problem that we have. It's incredibly frustrating.
The institutions in which we're interacting with are not set up in such a way that allow new ideas to emerge. And I don't just mean the government. I mean, the government's, when I'm on the Hill and I'm talking to congressional staff or even sometimes congressmen, they're like 20 years behind the culture.
Trying to think about the root of the disagreements. And as I mentioned in my introduction, I think some of it's over our definitions of different words. And one word that I think is key that there's differences on is equality. And I think all sides recognize that equality is something desirable and that we should strive for, but the disagreement is over what should be equalized. And the left tends to, and if pardon my generalization, it's easier for facilitating the conversation. The left tends to prefer equality of outcome, and the right tends to say we should equalize equality of opportunity, defined as nobody's preventing you from trying to do something.
For me, the thing I've been kind of wondering about how to change the dialogue about is you've got an element on the right that is really aggressively angry and not truthful. And it would be a wonderful thing if we could move that towards a respectful dialogue that really tried to stick with the reality of what's going on. As a founder of MoveOn, a number of untrue things that have been said about MoveOn are kind of boggling.
Just to add to that before you get, I think that the same could be said about some folks on the left though. So I think just recognizing that there are untruths being spoken, and I would hope that people like us are helping to bring the true truth out. So just.
I agree.
And this notion of sharing drafts of communications beforehand came up organically on a Transpartisan Alliance phone call, which was one of our hopes. But the leaders themselves proposed that as, I don't mean to offend you, but I know that I am, because once it comes out, then you say something in the media instead of like talking to me. So now that we have this relationship, and there's some pretty high level interests of organizations that are grassroots based sharing their e-communications and such with one another before setting them out, so that we're avoiding those issues and talking more about the commonalities. So I just wanted to share that is something that's ongoing and very active.
If an unlikely partnership, wherever possible, were to come about, I think that would be formidable, and I could see it growing. And I think it's for want of nothing else but that very thing, I think that more people would be gravitated toward joining and supporting those organizations. So I feel a great deal of hope just by your presence here and what I've been hearing, and I want to put that out as, you know, my feeling and my experience, but also in a very practical way. I think it's very possible. And I know you don't each call up, like sort of turn on a dime, call up. I recognize that. But you are influential. You're influential within your organizations. You're influential in representing your organizations.
If we don't do this, what happens? You know, what's the risk of not working together and not finding a way forward, whatever that is? You know, I don't think there's one silver bullet for any issue. I think we need everyone in the room. A lot of people like to say, this is a lot of new vocabulary to me too, but the idea of a whole system, you know, everyone in the room that's affected to have a discussion and figure out, you know, how to play nicely with the other children in the sandbox.